So I'm preaching about Jonah this Sunday, and it's starting kind of a series of sermons that are geared towards looking at Jonah throughout Lent. And the story of Jonah kind of begins to couple with the story of Jesus. The scriptures we hear in the lectionary about Jesus are kind of his progression towards Jerusalem and towards the cross. And the story of Jonah is pretty well known. It's pretty well known that Jonah gets called by God. He receives this message to go to the city of Nineveh, the great city of Nineveh. And as Jonah receives this, he's actually one of the most successful prophets in the Old Testament, because what he does is pretty remarkable. Nineveh was known to be a city almost on the other side of Jerusalem. And Nineveh was a Gentile city. It was a city that Jews would never want to go to. And so Jonah is kind of receiving these messages from God. And I started to think, how does one receive a message from God? I mean, think about it. Did Jonah receive this audibly? Did he hear God telling him to go? Telling him to go and to embark on this journey? I started to think about the story of Jonah. I started thinking about the story of Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc is one of those great figures in history. Joan of Arc is an unlikely character for what she does. Joan is a teenager, and she begins to receive these visions, these messages from God. These messages are these stories and these people, these great Christians and these angels, and she's receiving these voices in her head, and a lot of people think she's crazy, and all these messages are telling her to insert herself right in the middle of an international controversy. See, the King of England was invading parts of France, and of course the French didn't like this, and there was a part of France that was unoccupied by another king. And Joan of Arc goes to this king of France, who's not yet the anointed king of France. And the king hears that Joan is coming. Now think about it. This teenager who wants to lead a military campaign as a foreign country is trying to occupy her country. She goes to the king, the unanointed king of France. And the king knows Joan is coming, so he disguises himself kind of in the middle of all his other subjects and all his other people in the court, and kind of dresses as a commoner. And as Joan comes into the throne of the king, she immediately identifies him and salutes him and knows who he is. Well, the king sits Joan down with some church officials and some other people to try to discover what message she has. And her message is that she wants to come and lead this great military campaign against the King of England. What an amazing story. The story of this teenage girl who comes and leads this great revolt against England. If you think about Jonah, he's kind of a no-name in the Old Testament. He's not an Elijah. He's not a Moses. He's not anyone. But yet, God calls him to do something. God asks him to go. God charges him. Just as Joan of Arc was charged as an unlikely character, Jonah is charged as an unlikely character. As we begin to go deeper into the story of Jonah, we begin to see that his story is a unique story. His story is one of tragedy, one of triumph, one of adventure. So I hope that you'll join with me this Sunday as we begin to uncover the story of Jonah together during this great season of Lent. May you experience a call from God, because God is calling us. May you, even though you may seem unlikely, feel the presence of God.